Oh, hello. Oops, I've still got some background music. One sec. How are we? Hope we are well. Apologies for the rather late notice of streaming. Had a bad day, so I thought, you know what, let's just stream, get it over and done with. If you didn't see yesterday's stream, I'll go and do a little bit of an overview in a sec, but let me get stuck straight in, and we're going to carry on doing some musical magic today. I'm just going to jump straight in, and it will speak for itself, hopefully. So this is an arrangement of Faster Than Light from Stellaris, one of my favourite ever games. And we was reverse engineering the music, so I'll let it play. And I'll do a little bit of mixing whilst it's doing that. Bit quiet. Let me boost that. So this was the bit that we'd added. Here comes the strings. Fix that. Then it goes into this lovely section. There we are. Majestic piece of music. I love it more than anything. So what I'm going to plan on doing, I'm going to hopefully flesh out that middle section and use it as an example of how do you mix a complex piece of music where you've got all these different elements. Going to need to get there first. So let's have a quick listen to this section again. It's a little bit inconsistent. And then if I actually listen to the original, there's a split of melody. There's a flute bit that kind of okay, so what we'd do, let's listen to our flutes, see what that's doing. So instead of, let's just get rid of these notes here. Let's just tidy this up a little bit. It's a bit messy, isn't it? Let me go full key editor here. And let's just see. So this is playing a load G notes, sorry, a high G note, apologies. If I mute it, have a listen. So it's actually going higher, isn't it? So what you do is, let's go fully in there. Sorry, I forgot to change the cam back. So I'm going to unmute that. We know it's going up, so it goes. Instead of it going there, I think it's either going to land on the D, like there. Let's try that. It's actually higher. It might actually just sit on the F, which is interesting. And then it goes up. So if it's to play that, let's see if my keyboard's going to work. Would be nice if it does. It's hard finding the interval there. So just listen to for the jump, yeah? I think it just does that, which is just an F going to G to an A. So that's what we'll write in. And again, I'm doing this purposely really obtuse rather than trying to play stuff in to make it as accessible as possible, yeah? In case you're trying to replicate something similar. So it's F into G. Something like that. Now this section here, I'm not sure what the flute's doing, but I know there's just two long sustained notes here. So just chip away at the bits that you can hear. Christ, try again. Something up there maybe? Yeah, and then back down. Into that lovely section. So what's happening in the middle? I'm going to imagine, if you follow this is something quite interesting that people aren't super aware of, but let's try and make this full screen. If you follow the topography, or the kind of, the structure, as it were, of this track, or this line, sorry, it's going upwards and upwards and upwards. Yeah, so it's very unlikely that it's suddenly going to nosedive down here. It's probably going to be right in between there. I could jump that down there and it'll probably work. And then it's too harsh, isn't it? And that's because the distance between these two notes, musically that's the interval as it were, it's just too extreme. So it's probably going to be around there or around there. Very shrill that, so I'll sort that out in a sec. This seems to make sense musically. And then what we'll do is try and take some of that shrillness away with a little bit of EQ. And as we kind of get to this really big section, what you'll start noticing is I'll be a lot more aggressive with the EQ. I'll explain that in a minute. So if you're not sure what EQ is, it's literally how you shape the kind of tone of each of your instruments. If you don't EQ anything, then you set yourself up for a bit of a disaster. I think it's about 5k. Let's just have a listen. Oops, keyboard's lagging. Hello there, welcome. Okay, so I think I've got that locked in. Let's now do the string section. So let's turn the backing. Oh, the backing wasn't even playing. And then I'll bring the organ in there. It's pretty close. Just need to fix this section here where the MIDI kind of abruptly cuts off. And we need a lovely bass drone in there. The strings, whilst they're decent, it's not got the same... The whole track is like space, like synth orchestra is kind of how I just love it. But it needs more synth action, so I will do that in a minute. If you're lucky, I will do some live synth stuff as opposed to MIDI, because it's... My Nord wave's got some great tones. Let's have a look then at fixing this MIDI before I go any further. That's fine. We'll extend the bass, as we know that's what needs to happen. I'm going to see if I can find a nice synth drone. So I think we've got... That's my Nord wave coming through. Let's try and lock something in instead on that. I'll just swap cam over. Give me a sec. There we are. I've got my stage as well, but I'm just going to stick to... the wave at this point. Oof, gosh, that's a big fat synth. Far too much. Oh, Christ. Let's turn some of these effects off. So I've got reverbs, delays. For a bass, I don't really want... Let's try it. It might be too much, but I can always balance it afterwards, so... Oops. Oh shit, I've just realised I've been having... I've got my MIDI feedback going in here, so I'm going to have to set up a new track. Bear with. We'll have... I'll just do a stereo track for the bass. Let's not be too fancy. So we'll do 3 and 4. Wave to bass. Let's just try it. It's not going to be difficult to play because, quite frankly, it's 4 notes. Where do I want it to come in? Probably just before the orchestra. Sorry. Christ. So we've got a saw wave there. It's not going to work. It's too... So what I'm doing there is just changing from a saw wave, square. None of these are going to cut it. I need a much softer attacking sound, which I'm probably thinking is going to be some type of saw or half sine wave. Sorry, sine or half sine. See, that's a lot softer, isn't it? Oh, Christ. Multis? Multis are fun, but that's not what I'm after. Nice little growl. Don't want to growl. Pulse. Very heavy on the old ears, that. Kind of like that. And what I could do, depending on how musical I'm feeling, I can modulate that in. Like that. Quite like that. Let's go for it. You know what? This is what music's all about, isn't it? I'll try from 6 then. See how this goes. Of course, the rhythm changes. Forgot about that. I'll have to go earlier. Let's try from 4. It's got a bit of wobble on it. Do you hear that? And it's not the wobble I want. Let's try. I think it's got an LFO plugged into it. Give me 1 second. Yeah. You don't need to know what that's doing, but that might be better. Okay, let's just carry on. It's still quite aggressive, that. I'm not quite happy with that. Frustrating. I kind of liked the idea of it, though. I'll come back to it, because I think... Let's just go with something simpler. Sometimes the simpler ideas are the better ones. Let's go in from here. I'm just trying to slowly increase the modulation. Realised I should have changed my tempo there, and not tempo, the rhythm, so that's okay. What I will do is enable lanes, let's go again. I like doing stuff live, some people hate it, but... Damn it, I threw myself off. It's okay. Don't worry about the rubbish MIDI in the background. and then it goes to eighths. So let me get rid of this MIDI. What happens there is it stops. So you've got this pattern of, let's just get that re-enabled. So you've got this. Oops. And instead of doing that sequence, it just goes. Because it's building tension, right? So just need to watch out for that. So it stops. If I'd have done my markers properly, which I didn't, this is from the first session. If I had done my markers properly so that here, it drops off, I think. Let's have a listen. Bring the flute down. So that's where the MIDI needs to change. I'm just going to record that in dead quick because I'll forget otherwise. So it's... something like that. Just go for it. That should record straight in, hopefully. Change to Node Wave 2. Be enough. There's enough MIDI detail in there that I can salvage the stuff in it. I need an organ, so I'm going to add a track and call it an organ before I forget. Do I have any good organ sounds? I've got some in my nodes, but let's see if I've got something. Just put like a church organ. Oh, it's a pipe one. Don't want that. Organ. You know what? I'll just use general MIDI for now. It's fine. I just need to get the line in there. So organ. I'll play about the sound design of that in a sec, and we'll flip the cam back up so we can see my stupid face. There we are. Right. So just marker this bit up where it changes. Oh, it's not a key signature change or time signature. It's just breakdown section. And then this is going to be full orchestra. There we are. So get rid of that MIDI here. Because as we know, it's not right. We'll chop the new section that I just played in. And if I was feeling really creative, I could play variations of that, either manually, I can write variations of it in MIDI. I'm just gonna quick sync it, quick quantize, and just get rid of the bass notes, because I don't need the bass notes for the flute, because of the, how do you describe it? Because of the range it plays in. Now I'm looking at that, the MIDI data, it's pretty all over the place, so I could either re-record it or I can give it a little bit of a boost like that. This is what I'm going to do. Now rather than copy paste this over, I'm going to do something different for the flute. Because for every single variation I'd make, it's going to make it sound more authentic and real. Even all the mistakes, completely fine. I'm not a robot. Don't want it to sound robotic. I want it to sound real. Let's try that then. Get rid of the back end. piccolo is non-existent, so knowing that that instrument plays, how do you describe it? It's expressive based on how hard you play it. If I boost, if I boost the velocity up like that, let's push it higher. Okay, let's do the flute as well. Amazing. Give me 1 second. I just think I need to check something. Sorry to do this, but 1 second. Okay, I've got about 5 minutes and then I'll have to just quickly take a 2-minute break. Literally 2 minutes, apologies. So we've got the flutes. What else do we need in there? We need the organ. So I'm going to take the flute line there, whack it in this organ. Let's see how bad this sounds. Not actually that bad. I might duplicate this up and see if I've got another organ sound. I tend to kind of mix the really rubbish sounds with the good sounds, because I don't think there's a truly bad sound. I think there's characteristics that you can salvage somewhere. A little bit of EQ could probably fix it. Let's look for an organ. Apparently I don't have an organ. I absolutely do. I just can't find it. So let's have a look in here. Church organ, that'll do. Let's get that bad boy in there. Let that load in. And let's see what that sounds like. Okay, so that's got a lot more body, doesn't it? Let's listen to the other one. I think the two together actually work really quite nicely, but what I'll do is I'll put the higher, kind of harsher sounding one on the right. We'll do the other one on the left. We'll just call that organ BP. What we can do, this is the first time we're actually talking about mixing properly. So I'm going to group them together. So I'm grouping a track, grouping these two together. I'm going to call them organs. And if I want to make them sound like they're both playing together, two ways of doing that. You can either send them to a unified reverb channel or a track, and that will make them sound like they're playing in the same space, the same room, glues them together. So I'm going to just use, let's just use Revelation. And I'll do 25%. Sounds all right. Let's play them all together. Oh, I need to watch out for that actually. So I can bring the organs down on the group. Now, lots of frequencies floating around. So I need to just EQ these slightly different. So the rightmost organ sound, I'm going to take the low end out of it. And the left one, I'm going to take some of the top end out. Just a bit of a shelf on it like that. And a bit of the low end on. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's better. don't want them cancelling each other out, so... Right, give me 1 second. I have a very important package about to arrive. Terrible timing, I know, but there we are. So, that's okay. Let's keep that going. What I need to do is get that on this. Okay, so we got the organs working. What about... I need to fix these strings now. Forgot about those. I'm just gonna mute those a sec. I'm gonna bring the levels up on that slightly. And then it's pretty much going to be a copy-paste job, this, which is not what I like doing, but this is how music works sometimes. Oh god, I didn't like that. Did not like that at all. Paste it there. Get the backing going. Ah, it comes in there. That's why it's wrong. Okay. Bit of tidying up. Made a boo-boo there, I think. Let's have a listen to what that's doing. This is where you can get lost quite quickly if you're unorganised, which I am being today, because I've got 1,000,001 things going through my brain. Try again. Apparently, that is actually right. So I just doubted my own playing. Happens when you know yourself very well. So get that glued together. So that can come straight out from there. And what I need is some of this flute action, I think. But the velocity needs changing, so I'm going to drop that in here. Let me just test that with the... Oh, I've put the beans that up. It's a bit further back. Okay, so let's save that. I might need to just pause for a moment. so the notes are right, it just needs way more power. So I'll be right back in 5 minutes tops, and then we can get that section fleshed out. We'll do some mixing on it, make it sound majestic, and yeah, we'll do a bit of a recap then. Back in a moment. Hello, apologies about that. Could not miss that delivery. Someone's birthday present. There we are, so apologies. Right, let's try and finish this middle section off, and then we'll talk about mixing, grouping, organising, and I'll go quite in detail, hopefully. So, breakdown section. Thank you, keyboard. Here's a synth growling in. And I think if I listen to the backing, almost a horn as well. Definitely needs a horn to come in. So, just load my Spitfire Orchestra. We'll just do a you've got horns A4. A4, my understanding is it's a quartet, so we'll just get that to kind of do a bit there. So brass, horn, A4. I will put that in its own group if I need to. I'll organise this better in a second. I just want to get the stuff in there. And let's try and play that. So that's what it sounds like. And what it needs to do is start quiet and kind of roar in. I'm going to need a couple, I think. So I'm just going to... Christ. We'll play it low. And if you used to program, I don't think this is the best way of playing it. I think, sorry, let's try that again. I think if you're going to write in some actual realistic sounding brass, woodwind, strings, it's always better to play it in with something like this, where you have your really important things like your modulation, normally controls how expressive it is in the timbre, your expression, which normally is volume, or again, it could be expression, and then you can have whatever you want on that volume. Could be anything. Trying to keep it really beginner friendly. So we'll do it in MIDI. So MIDI, put your note in. You need to know what notes or what things trigger how expressive it is. So it might be the velocity. Most often than not, it's modulation. So you start it quiet. And then what you're going to do in this case is either draw in. So you'd have to turn your quantizing off, whatever it is. You either draw in some type of thing like that. Or, oops. Or if you've got a line tool, you can do something like that. Obviously it would help if I did it at the point where it's needed, so let's just solo that. Hear how it's not doing anything? So I think I've cocked that up somehow. Yes, there we are. Try again. You hear how it has that like increase in raspiness? That's because of the modulation. So if you want to double down on it, you can also do expression. I think expression in this case is just the volume for it. So if you want to learn more about that, I've got specific videos on sample libraries and stuff, but pretty raspy. All right. I'm going to duplicate that because I need something lower. So I've duplicated it. I'm probably going to lower the octave, and I'm going to change it from the horns to the tenor trombones, maybe. Again, keep it A3. Let it load in. Just going to save this before I do anything else. And when you're adding instruments, you always need to watch your levels. Yeah, so I'm going to group these together and just bring them down a touch. That'll do. Let's see what they sound like. Yeah, might work. Let's try it. Okay, that works. Definitely works. What I need to do now, though, is you've got these really loud, raspy horns, but what we've not got is the rest of the section coming in at the same velocity. It needs to come smack bang in your face, right? So let's look at the modulation here, and you can see it's all the way down there. So what I could do is just grab that and shift it upwards. Yeah. Something like that. It's a very lazy solution, and it doesn't work for every instrument, so I'll add a bit of variation. So I'll do, this one can come in a bit higher. Something like that. Again, if you want the best results, just play it in, honestly. But again, trying to keep it accessible, beginner friendly, all that stuff, so you're increasing your modulation. Probably going to need to do the same thing with the expression. And I jokingly said yesterday, if anyone wonders why I try and play everything in, if you do this for 146 instruments every time you need to make a change, yeah, it's really not fun. So, okay. I'm only doing, I think 6, maybe 7 different layers here. Just bring that up. And I'll leave the other 2 quiet, see what it sounds like. Okay, let's give that a do. We'll worry about the bass in a sec. Much better, right? That comes in as it should. Smallest of details makes such a big difference. Speaking of details, it needs a bass and also percussion, but we'll do the bass just to kind of flesh it out. Nice little low growly bass that. So let's see if I can mock something up on this. Oops, wrong one. So we'll call this a bass synth. And that might work quite nicely. I'm going to take the delay off, or whatever on earth that is. It's a shame because it's quite nice. Just going to increase the level a sec whilst I'm mixing and tweaking it. Can I roll off some of these sustains and delays? Oops. That's better, isn't it? So I could increase it ever so slightly. About 5 seconds. Okay, let's do that. And what's the actual line doing? Let's listen. We're just listening now. So if I mute everything, to the orchestra bit. Right. Not quite a straightforward bass line, that, is it? It's kind of fragmented. So, if you're completely noob and just wanted to try, 2 things you could do. We'd either just try and map it in. You can count it. It's quite easy to count it in some regard, so listen to it. So, if I turn the click on, it's doing the same pattern. So if you figure out the core hits, it'll be quite straightforward. So if you'd listen for it, so it opens up immediately on a D, I think. Would help if I had it unmuted. Apologies. Something like that. Maybe a octave lower, that's better. And it just listen, right? So it's when I'm trying to think how to describe this, make it full screen as well. So as each of these notes are heard, I'm visualizing them on this map. So it's like bum, bum, and you'll just see it as it does it. So let me mute that. Zoom it out a touch. So there's definitely one there. There. So it's bomb, bomb, like that. Another one there. And then there's kind of like a double hit that thing going on, yeah? There. So one. Just check that. Might actually be later. Something like that, isn't it? And then it'll probably repeat. So I'm going to be really lazy and duplicate that then. There's something that's happening with the bass. It's a bit floppy sounding. I'll go through why that is in a sec, but let's just see if that is rhythmically correct. So of course it goes down. Sorry. That goes down again. Much like the original line does. It's a very simple sequence. It just goes down, down, and then it goes back up. Something like that. So let's try that without the backing and just see how that fits in. Try that. I've got the live audio going as well, it's alright. So that's, why is that misbehaving? So the notes are right, but it's really floppy and weird. So, two reasons this is. I'm going to kind of explain this as simply as I can. You've either got something wrong with the sound, so some sounds... Christ, I'm trying to think how to describe this. It's either a MIDI problem, which is the note is sustaining for too long in the MIDI world, which means that when I press the note, it's not coming off quick enough, or the actual sample, or the thing that's playing behind it, is just by its nature lasting longer than it needs to. And that's where people do loads of really interesting things with sampling. They'll lower the release, they can chop, splice, all these different things. So in this case, I need to try the simplest thing first, which is I'm just going to chop the length of the note down in MIDI world, down by half, see if that fixes it. Spoiler alert, it won't, but just in case. Actually, maybe just need to eat my own words. Might work that. But yeah. I'm going to chop it in half now. Might actually work that. So if for some reason that didn't work, you'd have to look at your sound engine or your instrument or whatever it is. And on this here, it's really zoomed in. I can't, zoomed out, sorry. If I could zoom it in more, I would, but the release time of the sound being generated is 6,000 milliseconds. which is 6 milliseconds. Sorry, 6 seconds, not 6 milliseconds. I could also play with the decay time. So you see the decay time is 1.5k milliseconds. In other words, it's 1.5 seconds. You could tweak those down to kind of fix it. So if you're not sure, just have a play about with some of the controls on your synth or whatever you're using. Let's try that anyway. Definitely works. Bit flat still though, isn't it? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to modify the sound. I'm going to put a sub on there, probably a square wave or something. Keep the saw wave actually. And I could fatten this up, I could add more layers within the synth. Like that, yeah. Don't think it needs it. So that's that playing. I'm also going to put a compressor on, so just get rid of this. Get a compressor on. That'll do. The reason you compress a bass is you want a bass line to be consistent. With strings, there's a whole, I mean, Christ, I could do an entire live stream about compressors. I'm not going to, but the whole point of a compressor is you're making your range go from like this, so like one note being really quiet to really loud, to then being like this. So it's a lot more steady. There's not many instruments that actually need compression if you've got someone playing it properly, or in the MIDI world you're playing it somewhat consistently. But sometimes what compression does as an artifact of the way it works is you've got this huge wave like this. If you drew a line through the middle of it, what that does is it chops down these really high notes, volume-wise, to be down here, reducing that gap. With a lot of bottom-heavy instruments, kick drums, snares, it actually changes how the kind of transient sound is. So pretty much if you're using a bass or a kick drum, well, on drum kits in general, you always tend to put a compressor on. You don't have to, but it changes how it sounds, normally for the better. And it does the really important thing of making it consistent, which, you know, if you've got a really floppy bass line and it's up and down, you know, basses are thumping the driving forces. If that driving force suddenly dips out for half a bar, you lose the energy. So yeah, that's hopefully a really simplified version of why that's important. Pretty consistent sounding now. What I could do is bring that up an octave, and then engage the lower oscillator. Let's do that. It'll do. Oops, I've spliced that wrong. Right, bassline changes there. So it starts octaving, if you listen. So we'll play this first 8-bar bit. Sorry. So what is that actually doing? Well, by it's adding an octave every so often, and it's slowly building up. We just talked about energy, right? You know, this isn't bloody physics, and we're not doing Einstein theory of relativity and all that stuff, but music is energy, tension, release, all these things. The bass suddenly adding extra notes in, it's increasing the energy that's kind of in there, yeah? So you're getting the octave. Let's listen for it. So, extra note here somewhere. Something like that. Completely different bass line at this point. So bomb, 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 like that. Sorry, messy on that. You're getting these little like doubling of notes here. We'll sort out the quantizing in a bit, so. And I imagine that's going to follow a similar pattern. Great sound though, isn't it? Yeah, just follows the same pattern. And then we'll duplicate that up. That's the important bit there, isn't it? Again, we've got another bass change. So it's going bum, 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 something like that, right? So listen for it. Just extend that. So bit of a gap. So it's bum, 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 then goes again. So why is that impactful, do you think? Ignore the dodgy note. And then it's going to be a repeat of this probably. I'll talk about why this works in a second, musically. Yeah, so, and at 68 it changes. Same pattern again. So I think it's there. Again, we'll talk through it in a sec. here. And then it's going to change to 4/4, 4 to the floor. Or, sorry, 8ths rather than 4 to the floor. Last one. Okay, so why does this work? I'm going to group it together so you can see what's happening to that bass line. Again, I'm not going to go all Einstein and theory of relativity, promise, but we know basses kind of drive the track, yeah? So you've got this really subtle build-up, 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes, and that just kind of goes and goes and goes. Then we start getting this extra couple of notes being introduced. It's slowly building up and increasing the energy, yeah? And then by the time we get to this section here, we've got even more notes, but it throws in this bit of extra tension because you're like, oh, it stopped doing this octaving. It's just sitting still. And whilst it's sitting still, you get all that kind of nice, lovely tension, and then bam, just comes in, doesn't it? So let's listen to all that then, see what it sounds like. We'll fix the strings in a sec. Now, there's a weird little delay going on there. I do not like that, so let's try and fix that. So if I... And then we just need to fix that bass line there, don't we? These need to come down like that as well. So anything that is like that long needs to be shortened. Sorry, this is one of the really unfortunate things of MIDI, is if you don't keep on top of it, you can make work for yourself, as I have done here. So do as I say, not as I do. There we are. So duplicate that. That should be a bit tighter now. We could also have a thing because we've got an attack on the synth. Let's try that. That's nice. It's got a bit of attack, that, doesn't it? Obviously, because we've reintroduced it. Bit of oomph. It's good. It's good. It's what I need. So I just need to get that in time. Okay, let's get that bass in. It's going to bring it to life, that's good. This is the exciting bit though, you know, like it just, when it all starts coming together, so it's going dung 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 dung, like a little triplets almost. It's not quite triplets, but, so let's try that. So, gotta keep it in 16ths, because I'm going to keep it muted and just try and map them out. So it's another triplet there. Another triplet there. And then it drops down to the C. Okay, let's listen. Just one note off there, unfortunately. Let's listen for it. So there's a gap there. And then that will drop to the C. I'm not even going to bother checking that's right because I'm that certain. And then it'll be just going back up. You'll find that with songs, they have certain sequences that they just repeat. So save that. Let's have a listen. Ooh, it's slightly off there, isn't it? Let's have a listen. Sorry, it would help if I had half the other instruments going. I think the trouble I'm going to have now is with all the delays and stuff. So let's go from here. I'll come back to that. I said that 10 minutes ago, I'm aware. I think I've just cocked up one note there. It's literally one note, so... I think that's the one. It just needed a break. And we'll just do it on that one. Okay. And then I could duplicate that. It's just going to continue, as we know. Now, if you wanted a bit more bottom end out of that bass, I'm going to focus on mixing for a sec now, but what could we do? Well, you could either EQ it so that you're getting more of the frequency that you want. So if you wanted less top end out of it, well, let's put a bit of a high on it. And you could either then boost the frequencies that you like. I'm against doing that in some cases, because I think what's going to happen to this bass, it's going to sound very boomy. Listen to this. before. It's not terrible because I've not done, well, actually it's quite a big boost that, but you try and avoid doing massive boosts. If the instrument's already got a really nice quality, what you do is you try and either boost the stuff that you like, it's additive, or you subtract the stuff that you don't like. So if there's a really kind of shrill sound within that bass that you didn't want, rather than completely changing the bass sound, you could do that. Just try and lower the shrillness with a bit of EQ. And what you'll probably find is by the time you've got it within your mix, it'll get lost within the mix anyway. So like that, all the kind of harshity that I was hearing before, you're not hearing it because you're just hearing all the thud. What that will let me do, this is the kicker when it comes to EQ, is by boosting the stuff that you like, you can actually lower it in the mix. So that really harsh stuff that you don't like, well, you can lower it in the mix whilst boosting the really prominent thing that you want, and it just naturally disappears anyway. So if you're really struggling with it, of course, you guess what you can do? Well, let's say there was a really shrill sound here. You can cut it, but EQ can be very destructive. So try not to do more than you need to. And yeah, let's see what that sounds like now. It's pretty close. Okay, I need to fix these strings and then we'll talk about doing some proper mixing on the rest of it. So here, let's have a listen. Interesting. So let's get the flute in. Let's try and get one string bit right. So what we'll do, just gonna bring, let's get rid of all this crap, don't need it. Just going to extend that bit here and just listen. Same as we did before. It doesn't go on that note, does it? Let's listen. So mute it. Or if you're going to play it, try and play along, yeah. I don't think it sits on this note either. So that goes back up there, doesn't it? Yeah. Then it just creeps up. Do something like that. Something like that. Bit of a step in the middle. Like that. Now, is that carrying on upwards or is it stop? Let's see. Drops down a half step. Let's test if that's right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that little subsection onto the other violin and the viola. We'll do a little bit of cheeky octaving and changing of the pitches and stuff. So I'm literally just hitting shift up and down to change the octave. Yeah. And let's listen to that little quartet together. I think that's spot on, to be honest. Let's flesh it out then. So it needs the cello pretty low. Get the cello going. And then violin. Well, the violin's pretty high, so let's make sure we've got some high note representation. Probably a bit too high. Try that. And last but not least, we get the lovely Cremona Quartet. Love this instrument when it works. And let's just play it, see what it sounds like. That's a bit harsh, so I can fix that. That's fine. So this is where compression would help if I was so keen to do so. So compression, remember, it kind of helps reduce the dynamic range. I don't want to do that because I still want it to be really expressive, so I can fix it in the MIDI world. There you go. This is where it suddenly jumps up. It's not that bad, actually. We need the synths, don't we? We need loads more synths, so we'll do that in a sec. But we're getting to the point now where this isn't a complex project by any means, but I'm just going to do an instrument count. So we've got 2 basses, some MIDI, which is fine. Don't worry about the MIDI for the time being. We'll chuck that out of the way. So 2 basses. One's a cello, one's an actual bass. A synth bass, some live audio synth, some live audio electric piano. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 orchestral elements. And we're about to explode into probably another 5 or 6 additional. This is where people will either self-implode or the mixers will start getting really messy, and that's where you start having your issues. So, talked a little bit about this in the last session. But what I'm going to do is, let me make sure I've got some of these named already. So I'm going to be adding loads of soft synths in a bit. I don't want to do that until I've got everything else happy. So you've got folders, you've got groups, depending what software you're using. Sometimes you've not got that. You're just mixing stuff as you go. You just need to make sure that for each of your sections, you're happy with the individual balance. It's like trying to take on a big massive task, right? Of, okay, I'm going to ask you to recompose or rearrange, I don't know, what's a really popular, let's say He's a Pirate, something really dynamic, very loud, like fantastic. If someone tasked you with that and just said mix it, you'd be like, oh my god, there's like 40 to 100 different things you've got to mix. You do it in sections instead. So let's listen to the staccato-y stuff, the really short rhythmic stuff, and make sure that all sounds like it's the same level. So I've got 1, 2, 3. So this is balancing. Now, something people do Let me turn my cam off just for a sec so you can see the full thing. But what people will do is you'll either really heavily rely on the position of the faders. So in an ideal world, if you're going to do it correctly, you would try and gain stage it so that your fader sits more towards 0 than it does towards the bottom. The reason for that is because this top part of your fader and even the middle section, the distance, or sorry, the difference between 0 and 5, say it's about an inch on my screen there, right? The volume difference is 5 decibels roughly. Now, if I was to transpose that to down here, an inch of movement on the fader is the difference between it being at -30 to -20, and if I went the other way, to it being no sound at all. What it means is if you want precision on your fader, you're not going to have it. I would say though, with a massive hint of salt, we have digital faders. So if you're only relying on that fader position, when we have digital telemetry and stuff, it's fine to use gain staging, knowing that if you used to transpose it to the physical realm, where you might not have digital readouts and stuff, then yeah, you want to be absolutely sat near the top of your fader where possible, around 0. In the digital world though, it's not as important if you're organised. I say this as someone who I think is quite organised. Still try and gain stage if you can, if you think you're going to forget about something. Because all it takes is for you to forget that, oh, I'm just going to do a minor little adjustment here, right? All of a sudden, I've just dropped that from -24 decibels down to -30. Where if it was up there, and I just accidentally hit it, well, I've only changed it by 2 decibels, as opposed to 6. So, I'm not going to go into anything else with it, because it's pretty well established topic all over the internet. Go and research it if you're not sure on it. I'm not going to do it in this instance because I don't think I need to. Plain and simple. All right. So, but that's what gain staging is. Most people will do it, especially on the big tracks for reasons already stated. But we're looking at the balance of each of these sections. Now, if you've not already, you can group your instruments in 3 ways. By the timbre or the tone. So you might put all your woodwinds together, you might put all your brass together. You do it by the type of instrument sound, as in, is it a short? So is it like very short, it's done, versus these long melodic-y sections, yeah? The way I do it, I kind of, with the bigger projects, I will do both the split by its kind of how quick it is, and also the group. And it gives me so much versatility and control. You don't need to do both, but I like to do both. In this instance, what I've done, all the staccatos, you've got individual faders there, yeah? I should, but I've not got a fader for staccato, so I'm going to do that. So I'm going to do a group. I'm going to call it staccato instruments, because the reason I do that is staccato stuff, it's rhythmic, like it adds energy, so I want them to sit together normally. So I'm going to do that. Let's make it blue. And so if I want to just control all of the staccato stuff, I can do that. If I want to just control the woodwinds, well, I can also do that. But if I want to control my really short piccolo attack things versus then the really melodic stuff, well, then I need to start playing with separate faders. But if you make a group for them, so on and so on. So there are people that spend hours doing stuff like this, and you can have templates and all that stuff. I'm not going to go into it, but it's important because, for example, let's say all the staccato stuff, I'm mixing samples and sounds and things like that. Well, what I could do is put all the staccato stuff into a compressor. already that sounds better. If I then wanted to do so, I could also put it into reverb. Remember reverb, if you put a tiny bit of reverb on stuff, it glues it together. It's the kind of behind the scenes glue that no one sees. Well, you can make it very visible if you want. So let's lower this to about 20%. So that's before. A lot more consistent. I've not destroyed the character of the instruments, but if I wanted to do like really aggressive EQs and other things, I can do all that. The beauty when you make a group normally, or if you're doing like a bus track or something, it will always start at 0. This is why I'm not super obsessed with gain staging, because by the time I've started mixing, I'm only looking at the grouped things anyway. I'm not looking at 120 individual instruments, because quite frankly, if I was doing that after I'd wrote everything, I've really, really made a mistake. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, quite happy with those. Just going to leave those as they are for now. Going to do something similar then with all my string stuff. So I've already done this, grouped them all together. There's my string melody lines, and same with that. I could have a individual reverb track. I could feed everything into the same reverb. I'm going to just put them into one of my favourite sets of reverbs, which is this. And you could either do it two ways. You could either send that group of instruments to a reverb. So in here, you can send like a percentage, or you can do it at the mix level. People prefer sends normally, but I'm just being really aggressive for the sake of the video. What I'm going to do is, I'm happy with that. I need to make another group for the brass. So I'm going to just colour that a right disgusting yellow colour. Chuck it down there. So I'm going to group the brass together. Yeah. So group, apologies, brass, longs specifically, because I might have some short stuff. Who knows? And if I want to keep stuff consistent, a lot of the time what you can do is you can copy. Oops, didn't mean to do that. You can copy plugin chains and things. So I think I need to do, sorry, I'm struggling with my keyboard because it's not the best. There you go. So I've now got the exact same reverb on both. Huge kind of disclaimer, not always worth doing it that way, because if you've got a massive track, massive project, and you're creating 15 different instances of reverbs, compressors, whatever it is, delays, stereo enhancers, your project's going to start to chug. Yeah, so if you're going to use the same reverb for a whole bunch of different groups of instruments, just make a separate reverb channel and send bits to it. That probably will do that. So with that being said, I'm going to keep the track that I've just made for the time being. Just so that I've got it. So add effect. The effect is going to be the reverb. We'll do reverence. Tokyo, something like that. I'll keep this at 100%. I'm going to flag it. Lovely magenta colour. This is how a lot of the other digital audio workstation software works, but now I'm going to actually drag the... Actually, I don't need to. I can just get rid of it. Sorry, it's me being stupid. I can just get rid of all these weird and wonderful versions of reverb. Instead, what you will do is then send like this. Oops, sorry. Would help if I was sharing the screen. Christ, apologies. So I've just made another reverb channel there. I've took the reverbs off the other one individually. So it says now take your verb, yeah. And I'm going to go on my strings. And instead of having an insert of a reverb, yeah, it's going to get sent to the same reverb channel. This has two benefits. So one, not only can you do like a group EQ. So let's say you wanted to cut off the mid or the low end of it all together and make it sound unified. You can do that. But if I just want to send a little bit, well, I can just do that without having to touch the plugin. You know, really, really quite nice. So cool. So I think the brass should be going that way as well now. Might need to do the same thing with the organs. The reason I'm doing this is to make it all sound like it's being played together in the same room, same space, yeah? So I'm going to add some folders just to try and organize it a bit because it's a little bit messy. So I'm going to put organs. We'll put the organs under here. If you've got one or two instruments, you know, it's not necessarily worth doing, but live keys. So all my live keys can go together. Let's make sure I've sorted that properly. Going to put that right at the top. Just make a folder for MIDI. Why not? Whilst we're tidying up. MIDI. And I always try and color code stuff together. There's not necessarily a specific way. Some people like just making pretty rainbow colors. That's completely fine as well. You know, like no judgments. All the bass stuff is going to go together on the basis. Do another folder for strings. Now, you could do it instead of by instrument type. Remember, you could do it by the longs, staccatos. You could do a million and one things. So I'm going to do longs. Sorry, I'm going to do brass. So just to keep with the same theme. And then we will do strings. Someone might say, what is the point of doing any of this, Jake? Because quite frankly, no one else is going to see it. And that is a completely fair point. I'm not one of these people who will tell someone you have to do it a certain way. Because quite frankly, one of the lovely things about the world is people like to do things in different ways. All I would say is, quite frankly, if you're going to collaborate with other people, people like things to be organised and tidy. If your shit is all over the place, then yeah, it can be hard to try and unpick it. So if I now did this, have I actually got that synth being used? I do. Let's put that in bass in. There we are. Put the backing track right at the top. I could even put it in like a separate pane or panel. Time signature, just make it pretty, why not? So that make that. Get rid of the notes, I'm not using those. And all of a sudden, we've got a really professional, quite tidy looking project here now. If you looked at it like this, you'd be like, oh, great. But then when you start expanding all these down, just move the MIDI up, not too fussed about that. But you've got all these nice, lovely sections that you can see, yeah? So, looks a little bit easier to, well, it doesn't necessarily look better, but it's easier to work with in sections. My organization structure going to be different to yours and to the next person. Doesn't really matter as long as who you're working with. Most people, it's ourselves. If it works, it works. Let's have a listen then. So I've been putting stuff into a reverb channel You might have to rebalance it if you're doing stuff like that, because you're adding another version of the signal. Let's go from the beginning. Am I missing something there? Nope. Gonna do some automation on this synth. Take the cuts off a bit. Oh, I've got 2 bass synths, that's why it sounds so heavy. Sorry, it's me being stupid. That's better. I will fix the really drony. I'm just going to get rid of them for now. It's better, to be honest. Too aggressive, yeah, so I can either use the group and if I need the individual control, I've still got that. The reason it's way louder, it's going through a compressor now, isn't it? So, and it's being parallel compressed, so only 50% is going in. Nice, a little bit off time, but it's fine. Now, what you could do, this is where we start becoming masters, is you add automation. What on earth is automation, you bumbling buffoon? So, automation, if you was playing live, I used to be a live sound engineer, and a guitar solo comes in, right? Absolutely about to smash it out, your favourite song. What do? I'm going to crank that shit loud, right? So literally what you would do if you was on, going to say this is the faders, right? Guitar solos coming in, let's say that's your mix, you're going to, for that little bit, go, whoop, and chuck it up a bit. And then you might bring it back down when it's doing the rhythm section. Automation is literally writing that within your music so that it has that nice little boost. You can automate anything. The panning, you can do anything. So let me show you. So with the organs, what I'm going to do is just slowly increase the volume on that section. So what you do, most pieces of software will have some type of read and write function. Cubase, you can do it on the fader. So you've got R, W. R is to read it, W is to write it. So I'm going to set this to where I want to start the thing off first. Okay, I'm going to start it here. So I'm going to start writing it. And just creep it up. And then I could bring it down. I'll look at the bass in a second, but what you'll see now on that, this is what automation looks like. And it's just telling your track, in this case, I'm just going to let it read it. It'll explain itself, hopefully. So watch this fader, yeah? Not touching it. It's possessed. It's not possessed, it's just reading the stuff that you've put in it. But that's how you make music go from sounding produced and made in a box to sounding real. Because in a live environment, you don't necessarily throw faders up and stuff, but you do kind of touch and tweak stuff on the fly. You know, with a synth, you might be playing about with a cutoff. So let's just do that as an example. Sorry, let me lower the cam. So, you know, if I'm doing this here, this dial here is going to increase the raspiness of that synth. Yeah, you can literally automate that, because if I was playing live, that's what I'd be doing. Yeah, that's what makes your performances go from sounding pretty decent to sounding like absolutely amazing, right? So automation, it's really, really cool. I might do a separate video on automation, to be honest, but yeah, so that's in there. The bass is annoying me, so let's fix that. So it's... I feel like it needs a stop. So... Let's listen to the track. It's literally going bum 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 bum, which is exactly how it's wrote in. So bum bum bum, and then you've got that 6. Let's listen again. I don't think there's a break in between it. Bum 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 bum, like that. Maybe there's just a bigger break here, so that it starts like the... we'll figure it out. Honestly, it's the easier thing. Definitely not right. Okay, so... I mean, it doesn't sound wrong, that. I think because I've got so many different samples and they're slightly delayed, slightly not, it's just throwing me off. So I'll have a play about with that. Cool. We need some soft synth action, right? So I'm going to dupe a synth layer here. I'm going to pour it outside on its own because it needs its own section. Synth lead. And it needs to be some type of nice saw lead. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. That's my synth. Let's try. It might work, you know. It really might. So let's try. You know what? Let's just go for it, honestly. I don't see what the harm is going to be at this point. So I'm just going to get that line. Oh, I don't know why that's... Oh, God, I'm such an idiot. Sorry, guys. I've just realised why it's all out of sync and out of time. Because if you actually look at the MIDI, look at it. What is that? Sorry, that's really... I just presumed I'd quantized it when I... There we go. Oh. Keyboard's adding off. I've got a Bluetooth keyboard, that's why it does that. Okay. Well, that answers that then, why it's not working. So... Embarrassing. That should all be in time now. And it'll probably sound quite nice. It's amazing, that. Oh, we can all make mistakes. Sorry, that's keyboard action. What I'm going to do, I think it's got the right timbre, the synth. It just needs to have a bit of finesse. So, I'm going to try and play this just for a second because I want to feel how responsive it is. That doesn't feel too bad, actually. Okay, let's just see what it sounds like then. Nice. Pretty happy with that, you know. Just winging it. So, mindful of time, I'll have to wrap this up in just a moment. But last thing I'm going to do is add a brass bit on top of that. So, let's add... We don't need to add anything. We just need the horns to come in, I think. Because I've already got a horn line, so... I bring that over here. I'm going to show you the magic of automation in a sec. So, let's bring that line down onto the brass. Make sure it's got some expression. What am I doing? I'll just use one of these. Let's have a quick listen to that. Lower it. See if we can get a bit more. That will do. All right, and then, so for the first section here, I want the synths to not be as raspy. So using the automation, I can control the cutoff. So I'm going to write a piece of automation in here. So it starts off low, like that. And then before it goes here, and I'm just going to leave it there, see how that sounds. Now, what I can do is tidy up the curve, so I can get rid of that. Got this nice little increase. And can do something like that. Let's do one final playthrough, and then I'll have to go. All right, so make sure I've got that on read. And I might need to copy that over here and make it even more in the background. I'm not going to play the entire thing because, yeah, let's go from here. Oops. Turn the backing off. Thank you. Moment of truth. Pretty good. Needs a bit of balancing and mixing, but I've pretty much nailed that synth sound with not a whole lot of effort. And yeah, bit of automation. It kind of gets that nice like cut off and growly raspiness. So yeah, been through lots of bits to do with specific music production there. I will continue doing little bits of work on this, and then I'll probably do a final kind of I found a little video release of the full thing and do some behind the scenes stuff. Although you've had a behind the scenes as a live stream watcher. But yeah, whoever has been watching and lurking, thank you very much. Much appreciated. If it's just a bunch of bots, that's also fine, because I'm going to chop this up and make loads of little interesting sub-YouTube videos out of it. But yeah, if there's anything you'd like to see, if you have been watching, you're like, actually, I'd like you to look a bit more at that really specific thing, let me know. I'll do something on it. But yeah, that being said, you may have seen the thing pop up. I do work a full-time job whilst doing what I'm doing, so it's unfortunately ready time for me. So have a lovely rest of the day wherever you are. And yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure you leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff. For small channels like this one, honestly, it's worth gold. So please do that. All right. See you later.